Good day to both of you. Jason, let's start with the politics because it is Mitch McConnell we're talking about. What do you think he's up to here?
Mitch McConnell is playing the press, he's playing Republicans, and he's playing Democrats all at the same time because he may be the Grim Reaper, but he's a very smart guy. By saying up front, okay, Donald Trump, it was a part of this, Donald Trump provoked these people one way or another, he's giving himself sort of the air of credibility, right? It's like, look, hey, I can acknowledge the facts. I'm not a crazy right-wing Republican. He's setting the stage for looking like a reasonable negotiator going forward. But as you mentioned, Ari, by not saying incite and using the word provoke, that's the kind of wiggle room that a guy like Mitch McConnell will end up using. You know, we didn't start the fire. It was always burning. It was incited by this. It was provoked by that. That's the kind of nonsense weaseldom that he's going to use and that other Republicans will use, because we saw similar things with last year's impeachment, literally at this point last year. Well, Donald Trump did something that was terrible. He did something to violate the spirit of his job. He did something to try to overturn an election. He abused his power, but we don't know if that's quite impeachable. And that's what I think he's doing right now. Chuck Schumer would be absolutely foolish to think that what Mitch McConnell did is a sign that 18 Republicans are going to vote to convict.
So you're skeptical. You also, I believe you were throwing in Billy Joel?
Yes, I was.
Strong. You never know where he's going to go, Professor. Both of you professors, but I mean Professor Murray. You never know where he's going to go. So whether or not they started the fire will be litigated through this constitutional process. And Professor Murray, I now, having done a little bit of the politics, turn to you on the Constitution. What does it mean when House managers say they think there's a high crime committed by Donald Trump in inciting this violence? And is Mitch McConnell onto something by trying to make gradations, or whatever he may later claim, is that not really the point?
Well, this should take us back to this time last year. This is a perennial question, indeed one that has long been burning since the world's returning. Whether or not what the president has actually done has risen to the level of a high crime or misdemeanor. It doesn't have to be an actual statutory crime. And I think most would agree that there is less gray room here than there was a year ago. Triggering a rebellion against the Congress would certainly fall into the category of a high crime or misdemeanor. As to whether that's enough to bring 18 senators along, that's a very different matter. And again, this is not like a criminal trial where the prosecution has to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. Here, all that is required is for each senator to be satisfied as to her own conscience as to whether or not the standard for impeachment has been met. So not only has McConnell given himself some wiggle room, he's given some wiggle room to the rest of his caucus as well.
Right.
But you see, just briefly, Professor Murray, you see that wiggle room as going initially right now against Trump as compared to the last trial.
Well, I think there is much less gray area here. I mean, last time there wasn't a trial, there weren't witnesses. It was hard to tell if the phone call regarding the events of the Ukraine really did happen as some of the witnesses in the oversight hearings had claimed. And here we know what happened. We have it on video. We saw the president saying these things. We saw what followed. There's far less wiggle room here to link the president with the events that actually happened on January 6th. Like, there's a very clear nexus. That wasn't necessarily the case before.
Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.